Jalen Jacoby is presented by Guinness.
He is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen Jacoby. What is it that we do, sir?
Give the people what they want.
We have a full slate of NFL games to get you prepared for, but we start in Houston, where the new head coach, Stephen Silas, had this to say about the disgruntled James Harden.
Well, I haven't spoken to him since the trade, and to be honest with you, in situations like this, so this is 22nd year in the NBA, and when stuff like this kind of happens where there's a little indecision and stuff going on, I kind of take a step back and allow guys some space.
Giving them some space, Jalen. Giving them some space. What do you think about Coach Silas's approach to this?
It totally makes sense. When Coach Silas signed on to be the Rockets coach, he got the green light from James Harden, for example, and support. That doesn't necessarily mean James wants to play the rest of his career there. So they understand as professionals. He talked about how long he's been in the game, that James still has 2 more seasons left under contract. And I believe, just like I assume the coach believes, when it's mandatory for James to show up, he's going to show up. He's a dynamic player, Jacoby, and I'm going to continue to stress, for the sanctity of the game, when you have top 10 players, they're pillars in the league. They're the elite superstars. And I pay attention when Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis end up on other teams. Now, when Dame Lillard and James Harden, and we're going to be talking about the Greek Freak and Jokic, like, it's important for the balance of the game for those guys to get a chance to play against one another, Jacoby. And so if James Harden leaves Houston, they're not only losing a dynamic player that I don't think they're going to be able to replace, but we're also losing one of the pillars of the league playing in Houston that's now going to leave and be playing elsewhere.
Well, a couple things on this. Number one, I bet Coach Silas has texted and called James Harden and just didn't hear back, so that's how he's giving him space. But I also want to say this. It's one thing if you're James Harden, the number 1 scorer in the NBA, to say, I want to play in Brooklyn with Kyrie and KD. It's one thing to say that, but if I'm the Houston Rockets, I'm looking at the potential package that Brooklyn can give me back, and take a look at it. This is just something that we are sort of theorizing that they could get back for James Harden through Brooklyn. That's not doing it for me. I like all 3 of those players, Jalen. But you know what else I like? The guy who scores more points than everybody else in the entire league.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
That's not happening for me. If I'm the Rockets, I'm like, James, listen, you've got 2 more years on your deal. We've got practice. You better be there because you have a contract and you get paid tens of millions of dollars to play the sport that you love. We'll see you at the facility until we can work something out. What do you think happens next in this little chess game?
Well, what happens next, hopefully, is the Houston Rockets should not panic. That's the most important thing. I think Silas is going to do a terrific job. And their general manager, I'm telling you guys, has done a terrific job this all season with underappreciated assets around the league. You talked yesterday about my Christian Woods from the Pistons playing with them. They also got DeMarcus Cousins that's going to be motivated and looking to get paid, and John Wall returning from injury. And so while they were playing the small ball with P.J. Tucker, he's still on the team, and Eric Gordon's still on the team. So the Rockets still have a chance to be one of the top handful of teams in the Western Conference. Don't panic.
I wouldn't panic either, and I definitely would not trade him to Brooklyn before the season started for the package that we just put up on the screen. Now, moving on to another star player, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was doing an interview overseas, and here's the translation of one of the more interesting things that he said. He said, quote, "If LeBron, KD, or AD want to join me in Milwaukee, I will be happy. I don't care about being number 1 or number 2 or number 3. He went on to say that all he cares about is winning. Jalen, what do you think about this philosophy from Giannis?
Well, there's levels to it. First and foremost, you want players that think team first, and everyone's goal is to be a champion. That's the ultimate goal. That's why they keep score. But from a competitive standpoint, you hope that the back-to-back MVP is talking about how he's going to beat those guys this year. because he's still under contract for the Bucks, and they underperformed. And by the way, it wasn't to LeBron, KD, or AD. It was to Jimmy Butler in his first year with the Miami Heat. Have we seen that happen in the East before? Oh, that's right. Kawhi Leonard did it his first year in Toronto in the East. So I understand that all year we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. Can they do enough for Giannis to get him a championship? Not too many back-to-back MVPs end up leaving. LeBron James did so when he left Cleveland. This is something I hope does not happen to the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis for his future.
Well, everyone asks, should Giannis sign the extension? No, Giannis has no motivation to sign the extension. That money will be there after this season. They brought in Drew Holiday. I think that was very important. They made some other moves. But remember, they tried to get Bogdanovich, and they're not doing this in a vacuum. They're doing this with Giannis's cosign. So you see what they did there. To me, that's not enough to make me put pen to paper if I am Giannis. Because if I'm Giannis, that's where I'm looking. I'm saying, you know what? Even if they go 82-0 and win the championship, I'm still looking at Dallas and looking at Luka and say, ooh, that's a really nice mix. That looks really good for me. And Jalen, do they have taxes in Dallas?
They have no state taxes in Texas. He's going to save a lot of bread if that happens. However, Jacoby, I like what you did there. This is the only reason why. You know how I want him to stay in Milwaukee. But if he is going to leave, don't go join somebody that already's been ring chasing. Go your own path. Go to Luka's squad. Go to Dallas and play with him and KP, because neither one of those guys, unlike the aforementioned players that we mentioned, have been on other situations where they try to create a big two or a big three.
Of course, you know there's so many duos in the league, and I like complementary duos. If you look at James Harden, John Wall, not necessarily complementary. You look at LeBron and AD, complementary. You look at Giannis and Luka, their games fit each other's game perfectly. I would love to see him in Dallas. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm just going to keep that open. I'm just going to keep it open if I'm Giannis. Just keep it open if I'm Giannis. And make the Bucks audition for me.
No,
well,
they lost Kareem. I don't want them to lose Giannis. That's heartbreaking. I don't know what Freddie Gibbs will do.
There's been some new coaches and new players around the league, and Ty Lue was discussing one of his new players in the Clippers, and here's what he had to say. It's soft mover boss.
Losing Sham was huge for us. I thought we had a young talent who can shoot the basketball, come off screens, a lot of pick-to-pick interactions. That was tough for us to lose him, but we got a good player and I can't see it. Hello?
It was the head scratch for me. It was like, so he was discussing Luke Kennard, a new player for the Clippers, and he just started scratching his head and then acted like the Zoom froze. Now, the Zoom might have froze, but he still didn't remember Luke Kennard's name. Jalen, acting like the Zoom froze because you forgot your own player's name. Soft mover boss.
It was actually a boss move what he did.
It was.
However, it was a soft move not remembering your player's name when you only have up to 17 of them on the roster this year. And if you're the player, you want the coach to be excited that they traded for you and actually talk about what your role is going to be on the team. But I'm going to tell a lot of people, Luke Kennard is an underrated player. He's going to play quality minutes for the Clippers. But let me talk about my guy, Ty Lue. A championship coach is going to do a terrific job with the Clippers, Jacoby. You know what that is? That's a failed test. That's actually what that really is. And that's why I applaud Adam Silver for being the kind of commissioner that's not going to randomly test his players and their coaches this year. That's why I love the league. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Great job.
Recreational medicinal is legal in California. And as you mentioned, they're not going to conduct random tests for marijuana. What sort of message does that send to the players as we head into a new season?
The message is the NBA is keeping up with the rest of society. It's not something that we're going to promote or condone in particular for minors. However, the other professional sports aren't punishing for marijuana. The NBA and the NFL have been the two consistent ones. So the NBA seems to be softening that stance. I expect this to continue for the future.
Well, I've never seen an NBA player smoke marijuana in my entire life, so I'm not going to name any names, but there's like 5 people that come to mind when I saw this. There's like 4 or 5 people that come to mind, and if you watch a lot of NBA basketball, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Shout to that handful of players. They're going to celebrate this development in a unique way. Jalen, you see my t-shirt today?
Booyah!
Representing
Legend.
my Booyah t-shirt. We celebrate B-Week here at ESPN and, of course, the life and legacy of Stuart Scott. Let's listen to one of his more powerful messages.
I'm still here. I'm fighting. I'm not losing. But I got to amend that. When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live.
You can honor Stuart Scott's memory by giving to his research fund. The fund supports minority researchers and the research of why some cancers are more likely to impact minority populations. If you're able, give now at v.org/Stuart.
Miss you, Stu.
Jalen, we have a full slate of NFL games to get you ready for, and we will do so right after this. You're watching
Back to Jalen and Jacoby, presented by Guinness.
The 19th annual Women's Jimmy V Classic continues tonight. It is Louisville DePaul at 6:30 on ESPN. Coming to you live from Pier 17 in the South Street Seaport and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, we have some big games in the NFL. We start in the AFC where the Browns face off against the Titans. What are you keying on in this one?
I got the keys. How about this? When you have Myles Garrett on your roster, Odell Beckham Jr. on your roster, and Baker Mayfield on your roster, you wouldn't think the person that actually your catalyst would be Nick Chubb, the Chubster. But he actually has been. You see that right there? Look at that stiff arm.
Sit
Booyah!
down.
Like Stu Scott would say. You see that stiff arm? You know what I'm saying? And so running Nick Chubb and the balance with Kareem Hunt has been a difference maker for this Cleveland Browns team. Our producer, B-Lo, is happy. About the 10 Cleveland fans around the world, CJ McCollum, LeBron James. I know y'all happy. As a Lions fan, we got that 0-16 thing in common. But like I told y'all at the beginning of the year, it's the schedule. It's the light schedule. Don't expect to be winning no playoff games or nothing like that this year.
Yeah, the Browns are 8-3, which is a little surprising, but the key in this one is the run game of both of these teams, which is where both these teams gain their yardage. And you look at the comparison between Chubb and Henry, it's a little closer than you would think. You know, obviously the numbers are different with the numbers of rushes they have, but they're doing well, both of these players. And one thing I want to bring up about Derrick Henry is how he starts to perform better as the season goes on. It happens year after year. You know what he did in the playoffs. But if you look at September and October and November, look at how his numbers increase. You know, yards go up, 100 yards games go up, yards per game go up. So that's what the key is going to be in this one. And big shout to Baker Mayfield, you know, because they've been through a lot in Cleveland. The Browns get criticized a lot.
Cleveland!
And they lost Odell Beckham Jr.
This is for you!
Jalen, you are watching Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN, but we decided before the season that from time to time we're going to turn it into the Cardinals News Network. We picked the Cardinals as our team early this season. And early in the season it started to pay off, but things haven't been great for Arizona lately. Jalen, they face off against division rival Rams, who have been playing well. It's sort of a tale of two teams going in two different directions. What are you keying on in this game?
The Rams had a disappointing loss last week to the 49ers that a lot of people let fly under the radar. And as you mentioned, the Cardinals have been struggling the last couple of games. And Kyler's going to be terrific, scrambling, making runs, and getting yards. But the thing that stands out to me, Jacoby, is at the beginning of the year, when I was looking down at the stat sheet, DeAndre Hopkins was getting targeted double-digit times. And I know we look back at the last few weeks and we see the Hail Mary play, but I'm noticing that, look at this, 3 targets per game down, 35 yards per game down. It's great to see Kirk one more pass and getting 8 more yards. That's a dynamic duo that they need to feed through the passing game. And I know the Rams ain't the necessary team that you want to try to get your passing game going against because they're the best at taking away the deep ball, in particular with Jalen Ramsey. But that's what it's going to take for the Cardinals if they're going to win the game.
It'll be really interesting to watch Ramsey because I love it when Ramsey just picks the best receivers because I'm going to follow him all over the field. You know, that's exactly what he's going to do with Nuke Hopkins this week. But if I have DeAndre Hopkins on my team, what's the proper number of targets? Like 20? 15? Like if I'm Kingsbury, I'm designing every single play just to get him the ball because he is the most dynamic and, in my opinion, the best receiver in the NFL. Moving to another division rivalry game, we have the Saints against the Falcons. We saw this game a couple weeks ago when it was the debut of Taysom Hill at quarterback, and the Saints handled the Falcons pretty easily. The Falcons have been low-key playing pretty well lately. What do you expect to see in this one?
Shout out to Raheem Morris, has been doing a terrific job with the Falcons as they waxed Las Vegas last week. That was surprising. But for the Saints, Jacoby, it's about playing ball control football, really. Looking up at the clock, the Patriots playing like this with Cam Newton as well. Mistake-free football, throw a couple of passes, hope that you connect. And if you notice, most of his targets was to Michael Thomas. Basically, Michael Thomas has many catches in the previous game that he had all season. And so when you got weapons like that and you still got Kamara, this has got to be a big week for the Saints.
So Drew Brees broke a bunch of ribs, had a collapsed lung. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. So if I'm Sean Payton, I'm not playing with this Taysom Hill thing anymore. I'm putting in Jameis Winston because if they want to go deep in the playoffs, if they want to really succeed as a football team and compete with those other top teams in the NFC, they can't do it with Taysom Hill throwing less than 100 yards passing. So they've got, like you said, they do this ball control thing. They don't turn the ball over, but they've got a low ceiling, high floor with Taysom Hill. And Jameis Winston is the ultimate low floor, high ceiling player. I say gamble. I say put in Jameis Winston and roll the dice if I'm Sean Payton.
The weak of the strong who got it going on, you're dead wrong, dog. You are dead wrong because Jameis Winston turns the football over. That's the only reason why they don't have him out there. And while we talk about the Saints, what we don't talk about is their improved defense. Their defense has been really good this year, getting to the quarterback, in particular that front four. So now you want to play ball control on offense. You don't want to turn the football over, Jacoby. Mistake-free. But if you love Jameis so much, let me see you eat the W. Let me see you eat the W then. You ain't, okay, that's what I thought.
I can't wait to see Jameis eat the W. What I would do is I would sprinkle in some Taysom Hill, much like the Eagles might be doing with Jalen Hurts. The Eagles face off against the Packers, a bad matchup for the Eagles, but you have to wonder, what is going on with Carson Wentz, Jalen Rose?
He's struggling, Jacoby, but he is their starting quarterback that still needs to prove that he can be their franchise quarterback, regardless of his actual big deal. But for me, you still have to give him an opportunity to produce. Because I know he's leading the league in getting sacked. I know he leads the league in interceptions. But you know what we don't talk about Philly's Super Bowl run? Their stout defense. And it hasn't been as stout. They dealt with a lot of injuries as well. So this is one of those games, if you're Carson Wentz, you can make a statement. See, Jacoby, this is the rational confidence game. You Carson Wentz, you can make a statement. You go against Aaron Rodgers. If you play well,
they ain't making a statement.
Oh, okay,
it ain't happening. You know it ain't happening. So when you watch the Colts and they have Phillip Rivers and they put in my man Jacoby Brissett for short yardage or for Hail Mary throws, it makes sense to me. But when I was watching this game with the Eagles played last week, they put in Jalen Hurts, but it just didn't make sense to me why. Now, the first time he was out in the field, offsides, the whole entire right side of the line, jumped the snap, and then he was handing the ball off, it didn't really have any sense of rhyme or rhythm to it. What do you think they are doing with this when they put him in?
I think that for the culture, I'm famous in two of the most important places: the delivery room and the barbershop. And for Jalen Hurts, I love to see him getting an opportunity to perform on the football field. But what that showed me how the coach used him was that he didn't necessarily want to draft him, and he didn't definitely want to play him. He gave him some first team snaps this week. All right, GM. All right, owner. I put him out there. But now rest back and get back to the regularly scheduled program. That's what I thought.
Exactly. Well, right after this, we will get back to our regularly scheduled programming. We not only have big NBA stories and NFL slate to preview for, we have a big fight. We'll tell you all about it right after this. Stay tuned. You're watching Jalen Jacoby. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Jalen Jacoby, but the show doesn't end when the television show ends. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast because we always have exclusive content on there and exclusive guests. Today we have Juicy J on the show, and here's just a little snippet of what he had to say.
I mean, look at all the stuff we've done, and we're still here today. Like, people are still snapping our music. I mean, like, we've been around for over 30 years and still going strong. It's actually getting better now. What Rap Group was back 30 years ago, and they still moving forward and getting even stronger. No disrespect to any other groups, but best group.
Oh,
well, you can make sure you listen to Juicy J on our podcast today. Jalen, we have one big fight this weekend. Errol Spence Jr. against Danny Garcia. What does this fight tell you about the future?
I'm glad they're going to be in the ring. It's great to see a healthy Errol Spence, the lefty, also back in the ring, fighting on an elite card. I'm taking him to get it done.
Do you know what this says to me? Winner gets Terrence Crawford. We've been talking about Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford facing off for years now, and I want to see it finally happen. Right? Make sure you listen to Juicy J on the podcast. We'll be back next week, Monday at 2 p.m.